In today's video, we're going to continue our series on reviewing incubators, and specifically the Brinsea Ovation range, the ones I consider to be the best for smallholders. Hello, welcome to English Country Life. My name's Hugh, and together with my lovely wife Fiona, we run a chicken breeding smallholding here in rural Lincolnshire. You may even hear Pumpkin over there, who's objecting to someone else being in the nest box that she wants. And that's kind of the point. We spend a lot of time breeding rare breed chickens, and we use broody hens, and we use incubators, and we use incubators to support broody hens, and we've built up quite a lot of experience on what makes a good incubator. And in this series we're trying to review the smaller to medium-sized incubators to advise people what we think might work for them. We've already looked at the Brinsea Mini and we've looked at the Brinsea Maxi, and now we're moving on to the Ovation range, what I would call a box type incubator. These are larger incubators suitable for larger domestic setups or small holdings, but probably still too small to be for a commercial hatchery. These range come in two sizes. They come in a 28 and a 56, and that refers to the number of hens' eggs they can manage to incubate at a time. And they come in three models: an Eco, an Advance and an EX, and that refers to the level of sophistication of the model. So there's quite a range to choose from, and we're going to review that whole range today against our standard criteria for what makes a good incubator. And the things that we want to consider are egg turning, temperature control, humidity control. Get those three things right and you're probably going to get a pretty good hatch rate. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at how the range actually fits together and how it works. And at the end, we're going to review it for sort of pros and cons, things we think we like, things that we think could be improved, because nothing's perfect. And hopefully that'll help you make an informed decision as to whether they're the right incubators for you. And from time to time, our friends at Brinsea give us some special offers. So take a look down in the description, and you might just find that there's some available at the moment that will get you a bit of a bargain. Unlike the minis and the maxi ranges where the economy models have very rudimentary temperature control, all models in the Ovation range come with a digital keyboard which allows you to set the temperature you want, and then the incubator will control the temperature to that level, plus or minus sort of 0.1 of a degree, obviously, as things go up and down. So even the Eco model in the Ovation range has a digital display that'll show you what the temperature's at and allow you to set the desired temperature. On the Ovation range of incubators, there is a sliding bar that slides backwards and forwards, driven by a motor in the lid. And that sliding bar engages with cradles. Each cradle holds 7 hens' eggs. There are other sizes for other types of eggs. And the cradles that come have a number of studs on the end. There's studs on the bottom on which the cradle pivots, and at the top. So the bottom studs fit into the base unit, the top studs fit into the sliding bar. And once I've got one in, you can see how that works. The bar slides and that pulls the top stud, which rotates the cradle on its bottom studs that are fixed. You can get 8 cradles in the Ovation 56, and you get 4 with the Ovation 28. And I'm talking about hens' eggs cradles here. There are larger cradles available, and we'll touch on those. Now this is the lid, and close into the lid you can see that there is a motor. That's that horizontal bar, and it ends in a cog. And that cog needs to engage with the sliding bar, and it moves a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and it turns that sliding bar backwards and forwards. You can see here that cog engaged with the teeth on the sliding bar. And what will happen is that cog will rotate clockwise to move them one way, and then anti-clockwise. Now, as I mentioned, it is important to recognise that there are different sizes of cradle. They come supplied with the hens' eggs cradles, but there's a larger cradle as well. The larger cradles, you can get 3 of them into a 28 model, and you can get 5 of them into the 56 model, and they're good for goose eggs and turkey eggs, etc., that type of thing. It's actually very interesting to note that the larger cradles are also good for small eggs because they come with a small bar that fits down the middle. So if you're doing something like quail's eggs, you fit that central bar and you get 2 rows of very small eggs in a large cradle. Eggs go into the cradles pointy end down, but obviously they don't balance on the pointy end, so go careful. You get 7 in a cradle and there's probably still a little bit of play, and what Fiona and I do to combat that is we make little wedges out of bubble wrap just to gently but firmly support the eggs in the cradle so they're not rocking from side to side. When we've put in as many cradles as we want, and you can put just 1 cradle with 1 egg in if you want, and we'll come back to that. Often I don't like to fill an incubator completely. Put the lid on and make sure that cog is fully engaged with the sliding bar. Here you can see the cradles turning automatically. You can configure the time between turns. I usually set it to about 45 minutes for hen's eggs, so they'll rock back and forth each 45 minutes. We've established that for the Ovation range, you get automatic turning and automatic temperature control for all models. Humidity is where the models vary. The base unit for all models comes with 2 water reservoirs in it, and each of those gets a cover. For the Eco unit, you simply fill 1 reservoir for the first 19 days and fill the second reservoir for the remaining hatch period, and that's as sophisticated as it gets. The advanced model, though, does give you an automatic readout of the humidity. What it doesn't do is automatically adjust that humidity, but it gives you a handy dandy device that you can do that with. And that device is a sliding cover for one of the water reservoirs, and you can move that sliding cover backwards and forwards to vary the amount of water that's exposed and get your humidity where you want it to be. We work to 50% humidity for the first 19 days, 60 to 65 after that. The EX model is considerably more sophisticated. It has a humidity pump that drips water into the base as needed to keep the humidity where you need it. And there's a little tray insert here where that water will run. In order to make this work effectively, we need to remove the cover, and then we're going to put something in that helps that water disperse. And it comes supplied with this block of sort of corrugated material, and that massively increases the surface area, allows the water to evaporate. To fit it, you need to put it into the safety cover rather than into the reservoir. Then once you've tucked that in place, what you can do is refit that cover into the reservoir, and water will then run down into that reservoir, but it'll disperse widely across that corrugated material and much more easily evaporate, allowing for fine adjustments of the humidity. And that's what you want. You want it to drip in just enough water that it needs. Let's look at how it does that. What happens on this unit, and I've already removed a screw that holds this in place, is there's a thing called a capstan pump in the lid, and that capstan pump turns and it massages a soft tube, and by massaging it, what it does is it pushes air out of one end and draws water up the other end. So in order to make this work, what you have to create is a water reservoir at one end of the capstan pump. Now, they suggest a bottle. We prefer actually a jar because it's heavier and more stable, is less likely for a klutz like me to knock it over. So this is just an old honey jar with a hole punched in the lid, and the capstan pump will draw water up through that pipe, and it works very slowly. So as it's turning, it's pulling water up from that reservoir, and if you look here over at the left, you will see water dripping out of a little pipe and dropping onto a diverter plate. And what's happening is that diverter plate runs the water down into the base of the unit, avoids dripping it on the eggs, and drops it into the reservoir. We run our incubators at 50% humidity with the auto turn on for the first 19 days. But after that, it's time to reconfigure them for hatching. Now, what's interesting here is you can see that I've only actually got about 14 eggs, 2 cradles of eggs in a 56 egg incubator. But what I'm trying to demonstrate with this particular hatch is, don't think you need to get a small incubator if you only want to hatch 14, 20 eggs at a time. I have actually found that the 56 egg incubator is perfect for doing that. And what I've done is I've removed the covers from the reservoirs because I'm going to put a hatching mat in the bottom now. And the hatching mat's there so that the chicks don't slide around on that nice shiny plastic surface that's easy to clean. So we take the eggs out, we put the hatching mat in, then refit the safety covers in those water reservoirs. Once that's done, we can actually put the eggs back into the incubator. Now bear in mind again here that I'm only talking about we're doing 14 eggs out of 56, but I think you can see that this has given them lots of comfortable room to hatch. And if I had 56 eggs in there, that would be quite the squeeze for hatching. Now, with that done, it's time to refit the lid. And it's fine that they've been out of the warmth and the humidity for a very short period of time because they haven't pipped yet. But right now what I'm going to do is reconfigure the system. So I'm going to turn the auto turn off. We've removed the yellow bar, we've removed the cradles, and I'm going to push the humidity up to 60 or 65% because as the eggs pip, the membrane's exposed and it can dry and stick to the chicks. So keeping it humid keeps everything loose. Let's look at that little egg on the bottom right hatch in this hatch. Now this is the 28EX incubator and we use them both, but I'm trying to demonstrate here again the activity that goes on inside a hatching incubator. You can see this egg here at the bottom of the screen. I'll shoot it from various different angles as the hatch occurs, but it's such a struggle for these little chicks to get out, and you will see them sort of straining. If you look in the gap there, you can see movement, and the little chick's got a thing called an egg tooth on its beak, and it's pecking around the top of that egg, and it's creating a crack all the way around so it can eventually emerge. But that can take 12 to 24 hours, and the egg will roll around inside the incubator while it's doing it. And of course the other thing that happens is other ones will emerge earlier and later, and they will stumble around the incubator, and as you watch them move you soon realise why it's important to give them a sure footing, and they will bump into the eggs that are hatching, and honestly it's quite a chaotic environment, and I used to worry that they're going to hurt each other, but they really don't. And I actually think sometimes they're encouraging each other. I like to think this little guy is saying to its sibling, come on, you can make it, get out the egg, push. And it really is quite the physical effort when they do this. But I do find that one that's hatching often attracts the ones that have already hatched, and I do think they're encouraging one another, but that might just be me. Eventually they do fight their way out, and it's an exhausting process. They come out, you'd love to think they come out like Easter chicks, wouldn't you? But they're actually fairly damp, they're fairly bedraggled, and they will often collapse into a heap and sit there for several hours as they recover their strength and as the damp, bedraggled feathers start to fluff up. And in this incubator we've got less than half the capacity, but you can see as they're moving they're still bumping into other eggs, and that's why I want to encourage you to think about, do get perhaps a bigger size of incubator than you initially need, because partly not every egg will be fertile, so to get the number that you want to hatch you're actually going to have to start incubation on more, but also having extra room for the chicks to hatch is never a bad thing. The other thing is, keep them in there until they've fluffed up, partly because other eggs are still hatching. You really don't want those membranes to dry out, so keep them in till they've all hatched out. After that, let them fluff up, and then you get the joy of moving them under a brooder and having fun with them. They're always gorgeous. Right, here's my conclusions on the Ovation range. This incubator is the first quality incubator that Fiona and I bought. not one like it, this particular incubator. This is an Ovation 28 Advance. We still use it every year. We love it. And that probably tells you most of what you need to know. Things I really like about the Ovation range: the digital display is great, the range of features are great, and I think the egg turning is fantastic. I love the cradle system. I think it works really, really well. Fiona's actually quite fond of the kind of rotating plate arrangement on the Maxi 24 because she thinks it's a bit closer to what a broody hen does. I just like the efficiency and the precision of the cradle turn. The range as a whole does what it should do. Now, if you want to demonstrate things to your children, one of the dome incubators is probably better because you get a better all-round view. But if what you're after is actually just hatching eggs efficiently and you want a reasonable number of them, I'd say the Ovation range is for you. There are a couple of minor irritants on them. One that applies only to the EX, one that applies to them all. The thing that applies to them all is this lid has a double layer in it. A double layer of clear plastic, and what I found is post-hatch, when the chicks are fluffing up, all those tiny little sort of micro feathers of fluff from the little chicks get caught between the two layers, and I have to take the two layers apart, which involves resting it upside down, removing a number of screws, cleaning it carefully and making sure that I haven't dislodged either the pump or the motor from inside the lid. And it's a little bit of a chore. Honestly, like most things in life, it's a bit of a hassle the first time you do it, then you work out how to do it easily, and you do it pretty routinely after that. But it is just a bit of a thing. On the EX model, there's a diverter plate in underneath those two clear levels, and the water drips out of the pump and runs down that diverter plate into the reservoir. Here we have very hard water, and what I find is after each hatch I get a bit of a chalky build-up on that diverter plate, and what I need to do is clean it off. Now again, not a hassle, and honestly, given I'm taking the thing to bits anyway to clean the fluff out, what I'll do is clean the diverter plate out at the same time. But it just means that if you're the sort of person who doesn't like doing maintenance on your tools, you might find that a bit sort of irritating. For me, it's part and parcel of using them. There's just one thing that I just wish was a little bit easier to do. But overall, if you're going to hatch a reasonable number of chickens, you're not a commercial hatchery, but you're going to hatch a lot of chickens, then I would say an Ovation 28 or an Ovation 56 is probably an extremely good choice of incubator for you. That's our review of the Ovation range of box incubators from Brinsea. Honestly, we love them, and they're the incubators that we choose to use most of the time. We would describe ourselves as a medium-sized enterprise. So, you know, we're not just hatching one or two chickens for our back garden, but we're not a commercial hatchery either. And I think that's the space that they're ideal for. And they really do last, and their after sales from Brinsea is superb. If you decide you want to buy one, take a look down in the description. From time to time, we get special offers that we can offer you on Brinsea products. If there are any, we'll put a note of them down in the description and you may be able to grab yourselves a bargain. If you've enjoyed today's video, can you spare us 5 seconds? Give us a thumbs up down below. If you want to know anything more about incubating, or if you've got any questions on small holding, self-sufficient life, leave us a comment down below and we'll try and either answer your comment or even make a video to answer your question. And if you want to see those videos and everything else we make on our self-sufficient life, click on subscribe down there. It's a free service, and if you hit the bell next to it, you'll hear every time that we upload a new video. For today, thanks for joining us. Come back and see us soon. Take care.